Good day, everyone, and you are welcome to watch SRTV this afternoon. On SRTV today, we are handling Law and Order as our show. Today, I would love for you to follow us on our social media platforms if this is the very first time you're viewing us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and also on YouTube. I'll be your host, and I'm Mykael Deborah. This afternoon, and we'll be talking about law and order. Law and order. Most of us don't really know our rights as citizens of our various countries. Most of us get defaulted or become defaulters at these particular laws that have been laid down in our countries, and it ought not to be so. So, here on Law and Order, we would be handling issues that pertain to every right of a citizen. We'll be handling issues that pertain to what you think is necessary for you to do as a citizen and abiding lawful citizen of any country. Today, we'll be talking more on tenancy rights. You know, most times we as citizens we live under landlords and we become tenants, and most times we encounter challenges, troubles, problems that we honestly don't have to face because we don't know our rights as tenants. First of all, I would be reading something. I'll be giving us an insight of what tenancy agreement is, because as a tenant you have to have this paper. It could be written. In fact, it's necessary that it should be written. Tenancy agreement means an agreement, whether written or oral, expressed or implied, between a landlord and a tenant regarding possession of premises or his property. Now, as a tenant, we have so many rights, but since we don't know them, since we are ignorant of them, we tend to have issues, piled up issues with our landlords, and it ought not to be so. On our show today, we'll be having a guest, a barrister, that will be giving us more insight about tenancy rights. She'll give us the knowledge and what we ought to know about being a tenant and what we ought to know concerning the rights of a tenant. Before I bring my host up stage, this platform is for each and every of our viewer that is a citizen to bring out their problems, to help us tell the world what we pass through so that we don't die in silence, so that we'll be able to know what we ought to do and know the basic rights that would help us scale through as citizens of our various countries. Moving on, I read an article, yeah. I read an article on Nigerian Tribune, and it talked about rights of a tenant. Rights of a tenant. It was written by Yejide Benga. It was published on the 1st of November 2023. And he said many tenants in Nigeria have at one time or the other had running battles with their landlords for issues that should normally not have degenerated. He went further to say these issues could have been avoided if many there means tenants, if many of our citizens know their rights. So anytime you acquire new accommodation, you must ensure that your rights are protected. Now, as a tenant in Nigeria, the first step to know, the first right you have to know about being a tenant is right to exclusive possession. Meaning, once you have paid your rent, you have it takes to be the owner of that particular property. He went further to say, as a lawful tenant, the law provides that the place is solely yours, meaning it is now your property. It's true that he is the landlord, but in as much as you have paid your rent, you are now the sole owner of that particular property for that period of time, whether it be a year or a month or 6 months. You become a sole owner of that property. But most of us don't know this, and that is why we face challenges. Like someone told me the other day, his landlord has a spare key to his apartment, and it ought not to be so. If maybe he knew his rights as a tenant, he definitely would have told his landlord that it is not possible for me and you to share the same key, so that something doesn't get missing in your apartment. He also went further to say something about rights to receipt payments. Now, this is one problem that we as citizens of Nigeria, we tend to face this particular problem a lot. We tend to pay our rents, maybe through transfers or through cash, and forget to ask for a receipt. You know, a receipt is an evidence that if you are being taken to court or wherever, you can actually just bring out this evidence and show this person that, look at it, it was given to me, so I paid my rent. But most of us just fall victims. I call it victims. We fall victims because we don't ask for these receipts. We just go in with the mindset that I have paid my rent and I am meant to live in this particular location as a tenant. Please, if you are already doing so, I would plead that you stop doing so and try getting receipts so that you know that this is a right to you as a citizen. He went further to say the receipt should include the amount paid, the location of the property, and the duration of the tenancy. In fact, failure to issue a receipt of payment is an offense under the Lagos tenancy law. That means your landlord is also defaulting if he is not issuing a receipt to you. He also went further to say right to quit notice. This is the one that baffles me a lot because many Nigerians, many citizens out here, we pass through this challenge. You just come back home and you see, maybe sometimes they paste it on your doors. Quick notice. And then again, later during the day, you see your landlord showing up and telling you, I want you out here within 24 hours. And it's not possible for you to just evict a tenant because that tenant has a right to even sue you. Yes, as a tenant, you have the right to sue this particular landlord because if he put himself in your shoes, he would not be happy to just come back and see this kind of notice on his door. And most of us have really, really fallen victims of this because we are ignorant. Remember, humanity can be cruel, at the same time, humanity can be kind. So, meeting different people, meeting different landlords would actually enlighten you more. But also, as a tenant, you should know that you have basic laws, you have basic rights toward any property that you paid rentage for. Moving ahead, Yedide also said something. He said, the notice varies based on the type of tenancy agreement you have. So apart from the notice to quit, all tenants are entitled to receive 7 days notice to recover possession. Meaning, as a tenant, I have 7 days allocated to me as my right. But if I don't know that I have this 7 days allocated to me as my right, I will just, after seeing it, I may start crying, or I may come up with troubles, even if I don't know my right. But he has pointed it out for each and every one of us to know that as a tenant, due to your agreement on how long it's going to be, if it's going to be a year, if it's going to be 6 months, if it's going to be a month, even, you have at least 7 days to recover your possession. And he also went ahead to say rights to habitable premises. Rights to habitable premises. Yeah, we have a lot of issue going on here. Sometimes we are not even comfortable in our various homes. We are not comfortable staying in that particular compound because of the kind of pressure that is given to you by your landlord. He said, you are entitled to live in habitable premises, and if during the course of your tenancy the premises becomes inhabitable, you can request that the landlord put the premises in a habitable state. You make your environment comfortable and conducive for you to live. Said if he or she refuse you, you are entitled to end the tenancy and demand a refund of your rent. Most of us face this challenge of you live in a public area or you live in a private area as a tenant, and some things are not just comfortable for you, and you make this complaint. It's not like you don't make this complaint. You make this complaint to your landlord, and he's like, if you cannot stay, leave. And you make up your mind, okay, fine, I want to leave. You have to give me a refund of maybe the days I have spent, pay the remaining money back to my account. And you start going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And sometimes we don't even get this money back from this landlord. And it's not fair. It's not fair to the landlords out there. It's not fair because as tenants, it's terrible to have to start walking on the streets again, finding a conducive place for you if your landlord in particular is not making your home habitable for you. Now, there's something I came across on the internet that said a yearly tenant under the law should be served a notice to quit with 6 months. Another said a monthly tenant, on the other hand, is entitled to receive 7 days. So this long term that has been given to this tenant will help this tenant to actually go out there and do something else. But when you as the landlord, you are not just helping this issue, you're not helping this situation, it puts the tenant into what we call, I call it high jump. You put the tenant into problems that the person is not meant to have for himself, and it is not fair. I really want to use that statement. It is not fair to tenants out there. Well, right now we'll be going on a short break so that we'll be able to invite our hosts to join us, our guests to join us for this session. Thank you.
SRTV Logistics is here. Are you into a restaurant business? We are here to help you move your goods from one place to another. If you're moving your goods out of the country or within the country, you can come to us.
Trust us to handle your deliveries with the utmost care and professionalism, ensuring your items reach their destination safely and on time. Don't settle for anything less.
We're part of the global supply chain of helping goods to move from one point of origin to the point of consumption according to the needs of customers. You can contact us with the numbers on the screen or email us at logistic@superiorradioandtelevision.com.
Are you tired of endless search for the perfect property? Look no further. Let SRTV Real Estate be your trusted partner in the journey to finding your dream home.
We can offer you a dream home in a serene environment and beautiful ambience, surrounded with modern nature. That's definitely what you crave for. Well, you asked for it, and here we have it. Why not live the best of your dreams by making do with time, space, and value? The smartest form of real estate investment is that which is done at the initial public offer.
Join the long list of satisfied clients who have chosen SRTV Real Estate for all their property needs. We pride ourselves in turning your dreams into homes.
Act today. Secure your slice of a palace, even on a flexible payment plan, and embark on a journey towards a brighter tomorrow. Your dream is valid, living in a place of fabulous wealth and great opportunities. Don't compromise the standards of living. Explore the world of vast opportunities by investing in SRTV Real Estate today. Superb location, habitable, accessible, attractive, and a secret to every smart investor. For your real estate, SRTV is trusted and reliable.
Contact us today with the number.
At SRTV Film Academy, our students are not just learners. Through our comprehensive programs and hand-on trainings, they are transformed into confident and skilled professionals ready to face the world of filmmaking and journalism. We offer a range of courses from film acting to cinematography, costume and makeup design, special effects, script writing, directing, and lots more. Take the first step to unleashing your potentials on the big screen. Do well to register with us today. Remember, there is always a professional way to doing everything. Acting is my true passion. I can't wait to dive into the beautiful world of character interpretations. The ability to step into someone else's shoes, feel what they feel, bring their stories to life is an exhilarating experience for me. SRTV Film Academy has a comprehensive curriculum that will help me refine my acting skills, explore different acting techniques, and of course, help me find my unique voice as an actor. I am so ready to take on any role, embrace any challenge, and make my impact in the world of film.
Cinematography has always fascinated me, and I am thrilled to be able to hone my skill at SRTV Film Academy, and I can already envision myself behind camera capturing electrifying, breathtaking shots that will leave the audience in awe. Yeah, for real.
Being a part of SRTV Film Academy means I get to take my love for makeup to a whole new level. Special effects makeup is like magic, I tell you. Allow me to create scars, wounds, and fantastic creatures. I can't wait to learn to use the art of prosthetic to create imaginary world. And all hands on deck and guidance from professionals at SRTV Film Academy will help refine my skill and turn my passion into a career. I'm eager to unleash my creativity and make a lasting impression in the world of film and television.
As someone who is passionate about reporting and journalism, I am more than thrilled to be part of this prestigious academy. I can't wait to learn how to effectively communicate or engage with viewers through reporting and storytelling.
SRTV Film Academy Abuja, enroll today!
We're gonna shoot you! We're gonna shoot you!
Welcome back. Welcome back to Law and Order, where we have been talking about our tenancy rights. So before our guest rather, joins us on this show, I had a conversation with a friend, and he said something about his landlord. He said the landlord no sabi talk to person. He's rude. That was his worst experience, was him chasing everyone out of the house after Corona period, and their rent was not even out, meaning the rent he paid had not elapsed, but the landlord just came up and pursued them. Let me say, had it been this friend of mine knew that he had rights to collect a refund of his money or the payment of his rent, he definitely would have stood his ground and collected this money from this landlord. And also, if he also knew his rights, he would know that he's not supposed to just be pursued away from the environment, even if there was an outbreak. Now, I don't know what's keeping our guests, but we'll forge ahead. There are some basic questions here that I know most of us we battle with a lot, and that is, okay, your landlords give you a quick notice without giving enough time to pack out. I believe we talked about this particular note. So, having known now that as a tenant, my rights to wherever I stay, if I'm paying a rent for a month, you cannot give me quick notice and just tell me to just pack out the next day. I still have 7 days to stay, claim my possession, claim my belongings. And if I am staying for a year, you are to give me a 6 months. Mark what I said, 6 months, not 6 weeks. 6 months notice for you as a tenant to leave your landlord's premises. Also, someone also asking for money to repair things that spoils in your apartment and not fixing it. Some landlords go extra lengths to make sure that anything that spoils, you account for it, even if you have paid your rent and rightly you are supposed to take care of that property yourself. Some of them go forward and ask you for money that maybe your light is not working or your AC is not functioning, or maybe the windows are having one or two challenges, and they go ahead and collect funds from us. After collecting it, they don't fix this particular problems in our apartment, and it's really painful. Well, our guest will actually give us more insight on what to do when such situation comes up. Another question is restricting your movement, restricting our movement. That's one of the situations that actually baffles me the most. I am your tenant. Yes, we know that the country is not safe, but restricting my movements, telling me how many visitors I'm supposed to have, how many people are supposed to come to my apartment, and sometimes going towards telling me the time, like giving me a curfew when I'm supposed to expect a visitor in my apartment, should not be done. Please, it should not be done. Know your rights as a tenant. It is not right to receive this kind of restrictions from our landlords. Someone also asked, in a scenario whereby your landlord doesn't have a written document, how can you defend your rights to him? Well, I'll just say a little about that before our guest joins us for the show. One thing about written documents is a proof. It's an evidence. It's something that nobody can collect it from you, in as much as it has been given to you as a tenant. And it will help you, just like when I said on the receipt should be your days or months, your tenancy time, your amount that you paid. This also should help you know that my landlord, though, he is supposed to give me a written document, so that if any situation comes up, you go back to those documents and you know how to face your challenges and spell out your rights to this particular person called your landlord. I don't know why our guest is not yet on the show, but I'll go further to say a little more about tenancy rights. Tenancy rights. I read something. Yeah, it said a customary tenancy arises where a customary landowner grants another person, that's the tenant, at customary law the right of occupation and use the land in return for grantee's recognition of the title of the guarantor and tribute payments. So, one thing we have to understand is, having gotten this document, having gotten this document, you should make sure that you understand your rights as a tenant. Don't allow anybody to manipulate you or make you feel inferior of yourself. Don't allow anybody to make you feel inferior of yourself. I think our guest should be joining us now. I think she should be joining us. I believe maybe it's a little network issue. I believe it's a network issue. You know, Nigeria, we have this problem a lot. Network issue, especially if your guest is not going to be live with you on stage. So, well, at this point, I think she may not be joining us anymore because her network is really bad. Well, since you have sat down and you have listened to these few explanations on tenancy, I hope you now understand that as a tenant, you have rights and you have to bring out those rights so that nobody tramples upon you or manipulates you any longer. Thank you for viewing. And I remain Mykael Deborah. Do well to follow us on our social platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. Till we come your way next time, stay positive. Oh, okay. I think, sorry, I think first is actually just, I think she's with us. Okay, so we would be directing these questions, that were sent to me, we'll be directing this question to her so that she can give us more insight on what to do. Good morning, good afternoon, good day.
Good
Please
afternoon. Good
do
afternoon, and thank you
introduce
for having
yourself.
me.
Please introduce yourself.
Okay. Good afternoon. I
Good
am
afternoon.
Patricia James.
Okay,
Yes, I'm from Bauchi State, and I am a lawyer. Thank you for having me.
you're welcome. Thanks for giving us this opportunity for you to also speak to us, citizens of this country. So I believe you've been following
Thank you.
our show, and we're talking about tenancy rights here. We would
Okay.
like you to give us, I think, two or three basic rights that you know as a tenant you ought to possess and you ought to behave in that manner.
Okay. All right. Thank you once again for having me on the show.
You're
So, and
welcome.
I really apologize for coming late. All right then. So it's a very straightforward something, but then I would like to emphasize on one of the major rights of a tenant when it comes to tenancy. So one of the major rights of a tenant when it comes to tenancy is the right to be put on notice when the landlord is intending to increase the rents of the property. So if the landlord
Okay.
has the intention of increasing the rent, the tenant has the right to be put on notice. The tenant has the right to be notified that I intend to increase the rent of my property. But then, that being said, most of us Nigerians, we don't really utilize this right that we have as tenants because most of us, we do enter into this tenancy agreement verbally. Though it is recognized in law, there are various ways which one can enter into an agreement. You can enter into agreement orally, it can be written, and it can be by deed. So if you want to enjoy your full rights, this right of being put on notice as a tenant before the landlord increase the rent, you will have to make use of you will have to draft a tenancy agreement that will cover that, right? So
Okay.
when you have, yes, when a tenancy agreement is drafted to that effect, then you'll be able to have a remedy when the landlord just go ahead and increase the rent without putting you on notice, because that will be stated in the agreement. And once it's an agreement, it's a binding document. Yes, so
Yeah.
that's one of the rights of a tenant. And
Okay.
also, another right of the tenant is, yes, one of the pioneer rights of a tenant is right to quiet possession, right? So as a tenant, you have the right to absolute possession of the property that you are renting. So the landlord cannot just barge into your the property that he has rented out to you at all times. I'm not saying that the landlord should be restricted from entering into the property, but rather the entry of the landlord is restricted to a degree. He cannot just barge in anyhow, or he can come in for inspection and all of those. But then he is not to just come and disturb the quiet position of the tenant. So
Okay. So
that's
what
one
you're
thing that
saying,
I would really have at the back of my mind.
sorry, let me cut you a bit. So what you're telling us is that
Okay.
we are not to share our property key with our landlord, because I think that's the only
Okay.
way a landlord easily barge into anyone's apartment.
Yes, you are to have absolute possession of that property. Do you get? I'm not saying you cannot give your landlord the keys, but before the landlord is supposed to enter into that property, he is to put you on notice because it is his property. Because once the agreement you people have, once it expires, the interest in that property reverse back to the landlord. He has reversionary interest in that property. What I am saying is that before he gets to enter into the property, your permission needs to be sorted
Okay.
because you can enter into the property for inspection and other things. So your
All right.
permission has to be before you're able to have entrance into the property. So you can give him it's his house, but then he is not supposed to put into your rented apartment just like that. He needs the permission to come in.
Okay. Okay. I
Yes.
understand. So is there any other one you like to talk about before we throw our questions? Say our questions
Okay.
rather.
All right. So I've basically been talking about the tenants, and all of that. So I would like to talk about the landlord because I know we definitely have landlords in the show and all of that. So, I first talked about the landlord not having the exclusive right to increase the rent. Now, when it comes to the rights of the landlord with regards to tenancy, the landlord here, he has the right increase to increase rent. But then there are methods. Earlier I stated that you need to have these things in writing so that it will be enforceable and all of that. So when you are drafting your tenancy agreement, you need to put these things in place. So that one of the rights of a landlord is the right to increase the rent. So when you are drafting it, because two councils will have to come in, or one council will have to come in to draft this agreement. So this agreement, you can have a clause where you say that the landlord has the right to increase the rent maybe at the expiration of 5 years. The way Nigeria is moving now, things are things are getting more expensive and expensive by the day. And
I'm telling you.
is definitely a landed property. And landed property appreciates.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah. So it's appreciates. So you need to move ahead with time. You need to move with time. Do you get? So the landlord has
Yes.
the right to increase the rent, but then you need to state it that after the expiration of maybe let's say 5 years, then you come together and say, okay, I'm putting you on notice. You give notice to the tenant that I will be increasing the rent, and then
Okay.
will now, yes, they will now put in a method of how they can calculate this rent that you will be adding. Should it be by expert evaluation or any other thing? And also, you need to put the time frame. Is it going to be every after 5? Is it going to be after every 5 years that the rent will be increased, or after every two years? So that's
Okay.
one thing I want to say about the
Thank you
landlord.
very Yeah, thank you very much. Now I will be merging these questions. The first one, your landlord gives you a quick notice without giving you enough time to park out. How do you handle that situation, as well as restricting your movement in the sense that he tells you who and who should be your visitors and creates a curfew for those visitors to come in? So, what is your say on this particular questions?
Okay, so I will go with the first question where it says where a landlord restricts your movements and dictate who and who is to come in to the premises. Okay, so once we talk about absolute possession, you know, we talk about absolute possession, that means you are in possession of that land. For that period for which you've rented that house, you are in possession. And in law, possession is greater than ownership, so to say.
Okay.
So your landlord cannot restrict you to who and who I want to come into my premises. Do you get? That is why, like I've said, it is better to have a contract being drawn up so that these things will be clearly stated. Because we once you are drafting in a tenancy agreement, there is a clause where is a is named a user clause. That clause states the use for which the property will be put to. If it's going to be residential, agricultural, or anything. So if it's residential, then definitely people will have to come in to visit you because I mean you're a human being and you have relations and all of that. So your landlord cannot restrict people from coming in because if it is to restrict people, then you are not enjoying absolute ownership on the said land, on the said
All right.
property. Sorry, I mean. And then to your second question, which is a quick notice.
Yes.
So we have different types of tenancies, or should I say of leases and all of that. So if it's a yearly tenant, there is this thing that people don't really get to understand. If it's a yearly tenantship agreement, then the person is supposed to give you
I didn't hear you.
get me want that is you are in a yearly tenancy, that is you get to renew your rent yearly. But then there is this notion that people don't understand. They think that this month that will be given to you is outside your 1 year. But then I would like to correct this that if your landlord is to give you 3 months, you will pay for those systems. That is that maybe now let's set an example. Maybe the tenant or they are looking for what to rent. Maybe it's from January to December, right? That's like option, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe the landlord wants to recover the premises from you. He is supposed to give you notice somewhere in June. Do you get?
Okay.
You've
Yes.
already paid from January to December. So he's to give you notice somewhere in so that the lesser part of the year, that is from July to December, if you are forced to buy, to be able to get another promise for you. You get, but then it is still within your 1 year. You will have to pay for it. Then after the
Okay.
expiration of the window, it will not serve you with the owner's intention to recover property. That I think lasts for several years. So those are the things that people don't really understand. People think that maybe I rented a house from January to December, so after December that the business will start. So it starts from June. That's from June to December. That's like, and it depends
Okay.
on what
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing this insight with each and every tenant or citizen of Nigeria out there. We thank you
Thank
for
you very much.
accepting our invite as being our guest on the show. So,
Thank
having
you.
known all this, having known all this about tenancy rights and how you're supposed to have documents given to you by your landlord that states what and what should be in the apartment. I believe that all of us out there, my viewers, you have an understanding on what to do as a lawful citizen and as a tenant living under somebody. Thank you very much for watching us today. To come your way, remember to follow us on our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube on SRTV. Stay positive. I remain your host, Mykael Deborah. To come your way, same time next week. Thank you.
SRTV Logistics is here. Are you into a restaurant business? We are here to help you move your goods from one place to another. If you're moving your goods out of the country or within the country, you can come to us.
Trust us to handle your deliveries with the utmost care and professionalism, ensuring your items reach their destination safely and on time. Don't settle for anything less.
We're part of the global supply chain of helping goods to move from one point of origin to the point of consumption, according to the needs of customers. You can contact us with the numbers on the screen or email us at logistic@superior